the building.
Davante's dealing with a hamstring. He's rehabbing, and the rest of us are focused on Denver.
Is he here in the building today? Or?
He's supposed to be rehabbing.
So yesterday, Davante went on the Up and Adams show and discussed, a social media post earlier this week. Is that something that was accidental on your part in terms of liking the post? Or?
Yeah, I'm just focused on Denver.
Communicated with Davante, and where was the relationship with you?
And me and Davante talk often.
Have you talked to him since all of this?
I believe that between me and Davante.
Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
Welcome, everybody, to the glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting on the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. PORSBR is my Twitter handle, and Ryan Holmes is RHOLM22. The Raiders continue their masquerade as an NFL football team here with the whole situation with Antonio Pierce. Yeah, we did have a nice little, our usual all 22, like all set up for you guys today. But, hey, sometimes the shows are written for you by what the Raiders and some of the players do. So Antonio Pierce versus Davante Adams. It seems like that's how it's gone. It looks like it was a situation like we talked about it in the pre-show, situation where he didn't do what he's supposed to do on the field as far as maybe run blocking or whatever, business decisions, stuff like that. And he got called out for it and he didn't like it. And then he said, I'm out of here and whatever. And this is the result of it. And now we have, a head coach of an NFL football team on Instagram liking a post from an aggregated account. Like we know the ML football,
not even a real account.
Yeah, the ML football, the Dove Kleiman type accounts, right? Like that account, just to say, because the account said, Davante Adams is playing his last snap with the Raiders. I said a mouthful. Ryan, I know you want to come in here. This is really a debacle of the highest degree. This is not how you run a football team. I don't know what Kevin O'Connell's Twitter handle is. I don't, or Instagram is. I don't know what Mike Tomlin's is. I know they won football games, and this coach doesn't.
Yeah, the Raiders beat the Browns. Quick recap. We're going to skip that. They beat the Browns 20-16. Bigger and better things to talk about here in Raider Nation. It seems like a yearly thing that we have to talk about some random distraction. I think AP is to blame here and Davante Adams. They both hold blame here. And this has nothing to do with the Instagram liking or unliking. Should Antonio Pierce been on Instagram in the first place doing that? No, he should not have been. He should be an adult. You're the leader of a franchise. You're a head coach in the National Football League. Get off social media. Don't like silly posts by random accounts that are just there for clicks and to create nonsense. After the day, he basically said he was sorry for being a distraction with his business decisions comment. This goes back to the business decisions comment, as you said. There was a team meeting after the loss to the Panthers. I was there. I was at the game. It was horrible, bad game. And we said at the time, week 3, this is weird. You can't have these kind of meetings. This reminded us of what happened after the Detroit game last year that led Mark Davis to firing Josh McDaniels. Successful teams don't have these kind of meetings this early in the season. You only hear about this at the end of the year when everyone's packed up shop. Clearly, there was business decisions made on the field. We watched the film. We know what Jack Jones did. Jack Jones took his punishment, took his 1-quarter suspension by Antonio Pierce, and Antonio Pierce is trying to install a culture of he wants grinders, max effort, balls to the wall,
accountability,
pain, violence, everything. And kudos for him for wanting that. But at the same time, I'm assuming, and we're going to speculate here because we don't know all the details, and clearly the beat writers don't either because they haven't said anything either. But this all started last week, right after that business decisions meeting. You heard players say it got personal. Um, there was a lot going on in those meetings, and clearly, for anyone that watches the film, knows that Davante Adams made some business decisions in that game against the Panthers. He's been doing it a little bit longer than that when it comes to run blocking and really getting after it. You saw Trey Tucker drive a guy 10 yards down the field and out of bounds on the touchdown last week by DJ Turner. You're not getting that kind of run blocking from Davante Adams. Again, Davante Adams is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's 31 years old. He's been a multiple time All Pro. He's not giving you blocking in the run game, but you need to understand that as a head coach. But Antonio Pierce wants to hold everyone accountable. And I'm sure in this meeting it came up where there was clips of Davante Adams not giving full effort. Clearly, Davante Adams, there's a rift, and it has been reported today between Davante Adams and Antonio Pierce. This is the same coach that Davante Adams went in the offseason and told Mark Davis to hire.
Yes.
So the only thing that's happened in the meantime is he most likely got called out in front of his teammates, and he didn't like it. And he took his ball and wanted to go home, which is his right. He can do that. So if that's really what happened, again, we're speculating. On one hand, you have to commend Antonio Pierce for saying no one's above the shield. We're going to do this way. But at the same time, he's also a defensive-minded head coach that wants to run the ball. The game plan is not centered around Davante Adams. He's not going to put up big numbers. He doesn't have a quarterback, let's be real. So I can see both sides of this. But at the same time, it's comical how this keeps happening to just one franchise in the National Football League. And year after year after year, it seems to be the Raiders. Someone needs to be an adult in the room. There's two massive, let's call them type A personalities clashing here, and no one wants to back down. So Davante, let's be real, like I really question the hamstring injury at this point. I don't think it's real. And I've heard other reports that there was a confrontation at practice on Thursday as well, at the end of practice, and that led to the random hamstring injury, and immediately Antonio Pierce the next day ruling Davante Adams out of the game against the Browns. Not a, hey, it's a game time decision, we'll see. No, he's out. The first thing we heard Friday morning. So,
for a hamstring, pretty quick.
This type of behavior from a front office, from executives, it needs to stop. If this team wants to win, this team needs to stop spending assets on skill players and just trying to go get superstar names who are at the end of their careers. They need a quarterback. This team will not turn the corner until they have a quarterback. And this is another reason why we talked about it all offseason. And Davante's looking around going, hey, man, you made me play with Brian Hoyer, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Jimmy Garoppolo, you name them, Jared Stidham, after they moved on from Derek Carr. So they didn't have a plan to replace Derek Carr. Moving on from Derek Carr was not the problem. The problem was not having a plan at quarterback. So we can talk about all these random rumors about, well, they had a trade for C.J. Stroud, but Josh McDaniels didn't make the trade. We don't know if that's true. That was reported by one guy, and it hasn't been reciprocated by any other outlet. And everyone ran with it. The Texans were not trading out. You would have had to trade up to one. But the problem is the Bears gave up. I don't have it in front of me. I'm just going to say I think it was 3 1s, 2 2s, and DJ Moore. The Raiders couldn't match that. Now, could they have thrown Davante Adams into that trade? They weren't going to do that. They weren't going to include him in the trade 2 off seasons ago because they were trying to move forward with him. So all of this came to a head, and it's Davante's looking around going, we're not very good. I don't have a quarterback. The coach is calling me out. I'm done. I want to go play with Derek. I want to go play with Aaron. I want to go wherever and try to win. This team's not going to the playoffs. So AP's in year 1. AP has to win. He's trying to establish a culture. So he can't let Adams off the hook either. He can't just be like, Davante's on his own program. I'm going to let him do whatever he wants, but I'm going to discipline Jack Jones for doing the same thing. He can't do that. So AP was kind of in a hard place. But again, AP's trying to be the face of this franchise, and it's going to end up costing this team Davante Adams. And at this point, everyone around the league knows it. Everyone knew that a decision would have to be made this year because of what his contract looks like over the next 2. Yeah, they could restructure it. They could extend him. But now you're kicking the can down the road on a 32, 33, 34-year-old wide receiver without a quarterback. Now, here everyone's saying, hey, trade him, get assets to bring a quarterback in. I got news for you. If you trade Davante Adams for a 2 and a 5, that's not moving the needle if you're trying to move up from let's say 12-3 in the draft. That's not going to help you get a quarterback. You're still getting the fourth or fifth best quarterback in that draft. So unless you're getting a one, which at this point it doesn't sound like they're going to do, you're getting an asset and you're just hoping you're getting another player that can be a starter on this team. You're still going to have to give up multiple number ones plus that two plus something else to get into the top 2 or 3 if you want a quarterback. And I don't know if this is the year. There's 5, 6 quarterbacks that are being thrown around. None of them have really separated themselves.
Yeah.
None of them you can stamp and say that guy's a franchise guy. And we'll see as the season goes on and as we get into the combine, the personal meetings, teams are going to fall in love with quarterbacks. But I'm not sure this is the year that the Raiders need a quarterback. But I don't think this is the year of all the years that you've had over the last 5, 6, 7 years when they should have made the decision at quarterback. Mm-hmm. Outside of, the year I think it was Zach Wilson, the Sam Darnold year.
Yep.
I would rather have a quarterback in all those other drafts than what we're looking at coming up next year. But unfortunately, the Raiders are in a spot where they have to take a quarterback, and they're going to have to take one of these 5 or 6 guys. And let's hope it works out, or else we're in for another 10 years of pain.
Yeah, I mean, for Davante here, I mean, for me, it's more of a situation where I get it. He kind of he put a lot of good tape on and work for Green Bay. He kind of chronicled the conversation with Green Bay, and they didn't want to pay him, so they moved on from him. He got traded here. It didn't work out kind of from the jump because you had a situation where McDaniels and Ziegler, they were in a situation where it was more like they just said, "Hey, let's just do this because it's nice." They didn't really have a plan to go forward because they really should have just tried to build the roster instead of just saying, "Hey, we have a shiny new toy over here. Let's go grab Davante." So they went and grabbed Davante, and he had some big years with the Raiders, but it's not they weren't ready to win. And now for him, hopefully they can trade him and get some assets to get him somewhere where he wants to, where he can win, and the Raiders can get the Raiders can get some compensation. I would say one thing too is that there are some teams now in the National Football League who have had their quarterbacks. Those quarterbacks have failed. They're probably going to have bad years. And now the Raiders have to deal with the teams who are trying to re-up on quarterback. Like Jacksonville. Would Jacksonville maybe want to re-up on a quarterback? That's a spot for a quarterback in the draft. The Carolina Panthers.
You this. The top 10 right now, 6 of the top 10, and the Raiders are not in the top 10, all need a quarterback.
Yeah. And that's where when you don't make these moves to go get a quarterback and you just think, oh, you know what? Our stuff is telling us that Michael Penix is going to drop all the way down to 13. And if not, we'll just take the great tight end. I mean, that's you can have that plan, but the real teams go out there and get their guy. I mean, a team, people criticize the Falcons all day and all night, but they just said, hey, F it. We really like Michael Penix. We already have Kirk Cousins, but we're going to take Michael Penix anyway. And they did it. These teams are not messing around when it comes to quarterback play. And the Raiders have messed around and found out about how a franchise looks without having a quarterback. And they haven't had a quarterback for a long time. Frank from San Diego wants to know, would the Raiders take the best deal even if it was in the division? I cannot. You can't. I mean, even the Raiders.
Mark Davis is not sending him to the Chargers or the Chiefs.
Yeah. You can't do that. You can't do that. I don't think he would even send him to the Niners. I think those teams are going to be off the limits, but if they want to do that, and the Ayuk thing, Ayuk just signed a big deal. So I don't think you can't do that deal. We'll go over the teams who may be in position to get Davante in a little bit later. But this whole thing is just, I just don't understand kind of the childish immaturity. And I think that's what happens with social media sometimes, grown folks. You see if you're on social media and you just scroll, you see grown folks doing kid dances and all this stuff like that. You see the immature, some of it is just all in good fun, parents doing stuff with their kids, but some of it is people who really do this stuff all day. And it's they're grown ass adults. And I just can't believe a grown ass adult who is a people who's a head coach of a National Football League team who talks about ill intent, who talks about all these things, who talks about who yells Raiders, who wants to smoke cigarettes, I mean, I don't know, would Easy E like a post in this situation? Talks about NWA all the time. Like, no, I just don't think that's the way business. I think it works when you're part of a squad like that. Like, I don't. That's what's really like crazy to me is like I could see maybe him just being okay. I'm gonna be a dick here, and like if it was an actual Davante Adams post, and he don't and he just got into a fight with Davante, I could say okay, they got some man to man, they're beefing right now. But when it's like a fake account, and that means you're just scrolling just to scroll, and your team hasn't like really played good enough for you to be scrolling on social media like that. Like what I'm saying? Like I mean, it just makes you look like you're very immature. We all know about what happened off the field with AP as far as the car thing, like all that stuff comes into the play here, and it just makes the Raiders and him look really bad. And I just don't know. I mean, I don't know where like you have these Tom Coughlin's and these Marvin Lewis's around you. One thing that the guys were they were adults in their room when they coached their football teams. And he just doesn't seem like that at all to me right now.
I mean, I'll say this quickly. Like, I work for a professional sports team. In a different sport, not football. My account is 99% football. I don't comment very much on the sport that I actually work in. I'm not the manager. I'm not the pitching coach. I'm not the hitting coach.
Yes, exactly.
I am a piece in the wheel.
Yes, exactly.
I stay off social media
when it comes to that
baseball.
Stuff. Yeah.
I don't do it.
Yep.
I can't imagine being the head coach of an NFL team and doing that on a fake account like that. That just makes no sense to me. And to go back to the draft, just real quickly, like this is going to change. We're 4 weeks in, but currently in the top 10 right now, these are the teams that need a quarterback. Jacksonville, Miami, you don't know what's going on with Tua.
100%.
Cleveland, Tennessee, Carolina, the Rams, and the Giants. That's 6. And behind that, you have the Colts. Who knows what's going to happen with Richardson? And the Raiders are down here. They're at 21. Like, they're probably going to end. And I do think a part of me thinks the team's going to come together and you're going to see good effort. I don't think
just great.
I know. I don't think the team is just going to mail it in because Davante's not on the sideline this weekend or they trade him. Because when you turn on the film, Adam Butler plays hard. Robert Spillane plays hard. Max Crosby plays hard. You have guys on this defense that probably don't care if I'll use AP's term, if 17 is playing wide receiver. Now, the problem is the offense probably is not going to score a ton of points. A lot of the attention is now going to go to Brock Bowers. They can't really run the ball, but they don't really have a functional quarterback. So I think at the end of the day, this team is going to have to play the style that we saw against Cleveland. Play defense, get off the field on third down, run the ball good enough, complete just enough passes, and try to squeak out some wins. Which is, ironically, what we talked about in the offseason is probably what this is going to look like if Antonio Pierce is the head coach because he's a defensive guy. He wants to run the ball. Now, in the long run, this might work out if they go out and get a quarterback and they spend the money they're going to save from Davante Adams' contract and actually reinforce the offensive and defensive lines. This team now has to be dominant in the trenches to be competitive over the next 3 or 4 years until they get that quarterback situation figured out. Do you think I care? Or let me rephrase this. I think Antonio Pierce is looking around the resources and the way they're spent on the roster. He's like, I don't really want to throw the ball around for 300 yards. I want to pound the rock. I want to run the ball. I want to play defense. There's a lot I can do with $44 million if Davante Adams isn't on my roster. I think if push came to shove, he would want Adams. I don't think he's, at the end of the day, really going to be that upset if they can be dominant in the trenches and get by with Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker. And obviously that's not going to happen this year. We're talking next year if AP comes back. But I do still think this team is going to come together and gel around this. They might play hard for a week or two. And then what's going to happen is when they start playing better teams and they just can't keep up offensively or the defense can't hold a team in the teens, they're going to lose games.
The O-line.
I'm worried about what this is going to look like in late November and into December if
Yeah.
they go on a streak where they lose to Kansas City, they lose to the Cincinnati Bengals, they lose to the Steelers, they lose some games, and this thing starts to steamroll, how quickly this is going to come off the tracks. And that's Antonio Pierce's job right now, is to keep that locker room together. They preached and preached about how connected this team was,
Yeah.
how together they were, brotherhood, family. Now it's on Max Crosby. He's the leader of this team. Max Crosby has to bring these guys together, and I think he will.
Yeah.
But if you take Adams off this team, and I think I predicted 8-9 or 9-8, I think you're looking more like 6 or 7 wins tops. And there's a real argument to be made here. This team might win 5 games.
Yeah. It's tough. The question about Max too is like, how does this affect Max Crosby? Like, we don't know that. We don't know what the situation is. Like, they obviously those two are very close. They wear basically matching outfits to to games a lot of times. But those guys are, obviously each man's going to do what's best for him financially. But does it mean anything for Max Crosby's future with the Raiders now that Davante is going to on his way out?
I don't know if it does, because I think at the end of this season, they were going to have to make a decision on Davante anyways, and it was more likely than not that he wasn't going to be on this roster in 2025. So I don't think it really, outside of them making a playoff run and showing commitment, because you were starting over with a rookie quarterback next year, probably no matter what. I don't think it affects Max in the short term, but I'll say this: if they don't figure out the quarterback position, and we're 3 years down the line and this thing is still going sideways, and they have another new coach in here, and Max Crosby gets close to 30 years old, does Max Crosby want to hang around? I know he wants to be a Raider for life. I want him to be a Raider for life. You want him to be a Raider for life. But is he going to put up with 4 and 5, 6-win seasons over the next 5 years and hang around?
Yeah.
I don't think I wouldn't want to do that if I played with the amount of passion that Max Crosby does. So Mark Davis is under the pressure right now to get this thing fixed in the next year or two. They need to find a quarterback. They need stability to head coach. Hopefully AP can pull this thing out, put together a decent stretch here, and come back next year. Because if it doesn't happen that way, if Tom Telesco has to fire AP at the end of the year and this thing starts over again, this team's in trouble.
I just watched the documentary Mr. McMahon on Netflix about wrestling. If you're not a wrestling, I'm not a wrestling fan anymore. I was when I was a little baby, but not now. But it's really, really good. I would love to see the behind the scenes conversations with this franchise skirting around the question of quarterback with the Raiders. I cannot believe that this is yet another, and we talked about quarterback so much. People in the comments sometimes, when people in the comments,
they hated us.
They were like, "Oh God, stop bringing up quarterback." Oh my God, it's like, dude, like it's the only thing that matters right now is getting a quarterback. I just can't believe that like Mark is so. I feel like Mark is so disconnected from his own franchise that he's so worried about getting, part ownership to Tom Brady, that he just we're not worried about actually an actual quarterback who can play on the team right now. The guy on the poster, the promo for the team, it has to be the quarterback. Otherwise, it's not a good look for your team. Once in a while, you get like a Max Crosby, you get like a guy who's Calvin Johnson, who's like a great player that way. So he'll be on the promo. But when your team is playing another team, and the promo is not, they're not putting your quarterback there, they're putting somebody else there. That's not a good look, man. And I just don't understand how they can have in-depth meetings about a football team and not have conversations about, hey, what are we going to do to get a quarterback and solve the quarterback issue with the Las Vegas Raiders?
I'll take it a step further. He moved this franchise to Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. Ticket prices are through the roof. Opposing fans are taking over the stadium, and Mark Davis is saying they need a home field advantage. They need Raider fans there. But what has he done to put a product on the field that's worthy? And I'm a season ticket holder. A product on the field that makes me want to get in my car, drive 4.5, 5 hours to the stadium, watch them, spend a ton of money on a weekend, get in my car and drive home on a Sunday night or Monday morning.
Yeah.
I don't know. And
It's been
and I understand when Josh McDaniels came in, you had Derek Carr, you made a run there, you brought in Davante Adams, you thought it was going to be better, but the minute you decided you were moving on from him, every asset, every resource in this organization should have been find the quarterback, and it's been the opposite. It's been let's try Jimmy Garoppolo. Hey, let's bring in Brian Hoyer to be his backup. Hey, let's go get Gardner Minshew. And I don't want to hear people say, well, no one in the top three was traded. No one said we had to take one of the top three this year. No one said that. Like you could have found a way to get Penix. You could have found a way to get McCarthy, who's hurt. We didn't know if he went to the Raiders, we'd know if he was hurt. But you have to try. You have to swing at some point.
yeah.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, is what was it? Michael Jordan said that
Yeah.
the Raiders haven't taken a shot. So how are you going to make one?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's unbelievable that and like listen. I understand Twitter Spaces are crazy, but they've also
I listened to one of them today. That was crazy.
I was going nuts in that one. It's
that anonymous button is good, and then I posted something. I deleted it, and one of you guys called me out. And I left right after that.
That's funny. That was hilarious. But I was gonna say now. But yeah, I mean, it's just. I mean, but I think like going into our spaces and hearing like fans also will fight with you about not taking a quarterback in the first round. And it's
absolutely.
yeah, and to me it's like I cannot believe like they'll bring up every quarterback who failed. They'll Tom Brady, but look at Will Levis, or look at so and so, and I'm like, dude, like it's okay because you can nowadays. It's not like Jamarcus Russell, Sam Bradford.
You can move on quickly.
You can move on quickly. It's like they get so worried about having a failed quarterback. I mean, like who cares if he's failed? Like if you can just take one and just move on, like and get like the Jets went from Sam Darnold to Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers. Like it's just like that. Like you know what I mean. And you gotta keep being. It's just like and now with the way they have it set up now, it's almost like any other position. Like my left tackle is not doing the job. I'm gonna draft somebody, move on from him. Like it's like I can't believe people really sit there and just like try to justify not taking shots at quarterback. Like I never understand that because like that is what's going to hold this team back. You have to draft. Next year's draft should be really simple. You go to the draft, you get a quarterback in the first round. After that, you go defense and offensive line till the draft is done. Because that's what this team needs. Like all this fancy stuff that Ben Johnson does that we saw yesterday, it all is predicated because he has a really good offensive line, and people don't even touch golf half the time, and that's why they're able to move the football.
Goff's a good quarterback. Let's not like.
No. I'm old school Pac-12.
I'd take him right now.
Yeah, I'm old school Pac-12. I like golf, but I'm just saying but his job is made. He can be really good. And what he does well, and because he can just, he got Williams, he got all these different weapons because his offensive because Penei Sewell is gonna always be there to protect his blind side. So like that's the thing that people don't get is like I don't understand how you cannot go out there and go out there and just try again to go get a quarterback. I don't understand. Even I know it pissed Aaron Rodgers off immensely for them not to get a weapon and go out there and get Julian and get Love, but the organization said this is what we do. You know what I mean? So sorry.
I think what really drove me out of that Spaces today. I don't remember who the commenter was. He read off the Raiders record from 2008 till now.
Jay did that,
and I said, "Holy crap!" Like. There was a ton of 3 and 4, 5-win seasons where they were in the top 5, 6, 7 of a draft, and
no quarterback did not take a quarterback.
Still never tried. Yeah, I was like, oh man, that's depressing. The year in the back of my mind, I knew that, but at the same time, like it really
you hear it out loud.
The records, I was
the year that really burned me, and it was the win. It was the most disturbing win in my Raider life. Was the win that they had against Arizona in Arizona against Josh Rosen. I'm like, even if you didn't want Kyler Murray, you had to lose that game. So you get the draft capital to freaking because somebody would have paid our king's ransom to get Kyler Murray that year. That drove me mad that they won that game. I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe as a franchise they couldn't just say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna back up quarterback day. Like, we're gonna run the football all day and take an L for that one game because they only won 4 games that year anyway. So what was the difference? But that's neither here nor there.
I would add, talking about the offensive line, I do think DJ Glaze has a chance to be a solid starter. I think
He does.
Jackson Powers Johnson has a chance to be really good. I think Dylan Parham can be a solid starter. The question moving forward is going to be center and left tackle. Colton, how many more years does Colton Miller have where he's going to play? And obviously he's hurt this year, so like I'm going to throw this year out so far. But like sooner or later, you're going to have to address left tackle as well. Um, so the Raiders have the pieces. They have the concepts of an offensive line, so we'll use that term. They have 3 young guys they can count on, but the whole build the roster before you get in the quarterback, to me, like, it's hard to think that way because these contracts come up so quick now. Like, the Raiders are in a spot now where, like, they're trying to build the roster, but now you have to pay Merrick, you have to pay Hobbs, you have to pay all these guys that are free agents now. You have to pay Diablo, you have to pay all these guys in 4 years. So, like, you can build through 2-3 drafts, and then you hit on some of those guys. You better be right when you get the quarterback next because now you have to pay all of those guys. So, like, I want to get the quarterback, get him locked in, and then I'll build everything else around him. Now, obviously, you may need to sit him for you. Don't want to put him out there on, like, you don't want to put Drake May out with the Pages right now. They're not any good, but they took a shot at Drake May. We'll find out if he's any good. But you can't build it the other way because it's not like you have these guys for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and then you have to pay them. And the way it's going now, it doesn't matter if they're good or not. If their contract's up, if you take a guy in the first round and his contract's up, you got to pay him top 5 in his position going market rate, or you're going to lose him.
Yeah.
They're going to go to free agency. I will add on the Davante Adams. I see a lot of people throwing out Hassan Reddick. Go get Hassan Reddick for Davante. If this team moves on from Davante Adams, I want draft picks. And if they move on from Davante Adams, I want nothing to do with a 30-plus-year-old edge rusher that wants a fat contract because this team's not going to be ready next year.
Yeah.
So what's the point of bringing in a guy who wants a new contract, who's holding out from the Jets and paying him a fat contract? Get that off the books. Give me a 1-year deal with Malcolm Kuntz next year. Bring him back opposite Max Crosby and spend the money you're going to save on the positions that matter. Reinforce the offensive line. Go get a running back, get another wide receiver, get a cornerback, get another defensive tackle, and let's go. But if you're going to trade for a guy, I want a guy that's in his first or second year that still has his cost controlled. I don't want a guy who's in the last year of a contract before you have to pay him. You want to go get Garrett Wilson. They're not going to trade Garrett Wilson. But if you're going to trade Davante Adams to the Jets, I want Garrett Wilson. I don't want Hassan Reddick.
No, I mean, I just give me the picks. I don't want players. Just give me the picks. If you can get the Jets back at running back, I guess that would be tempting. But like to me, it's like I just want the picks. I can find a running back. I watch college football every week. I can find a running back. I'm not worried about running back. As far as like
you move on from Adams, the only focus that matters is the quarterback in the offseason.
Yes, 100%.
What can we do to get that player? And I'll go on record now, and it's what is it, October 1st?
Yep.
I'm not in love with any of these college quarterbacks. Like, I know they're going to go good. I know 5 of these guys are probably going to go in the first round. And by the time we get to the draft, there'll probably be 2 or 3 I'll be okay with.
Yep.
But you still got to try. Even if you're going to be wrong, you still have to try.
Yep.
So we'll see what they do.
And with the right infrastructure, like I think Kevin O'Connell said it best because he's like my new favorite coach. That organizations fail young quarterbacks before they fail organizations. I don't know if I believe that 100% because some of these guys, I'm not sure if they're up to snuff and can play, but at the NFL level. But to a certain extent, he does have a point. And right now, as long as Sam Darnold keeps playing the way he's playing, he can pound his chest for that all day and all night. And not to mention he has JJ McCarthy in his back pocket in the future too.
Yeah. I would add this. I know I'm not asking for AP's job. I know a lot of people are saying, get him out of here after this year. Don't fire him during the season. We don't need another interim mess. But also, if you move on from Antonio Pierce after 1 year, if this thing does go off the rails, I hear Ben Johnson, I hear Bobby Slowick, all these young hotshot coordinators. They're not coming to coach the Raiders. You got rid of Josh McDaniel in a year and a half. You got rid of Antonio Pierce after 1 year. You don't have a quarterback on the roster. You don't have a playmaker outside other than Brock Bowers, and you're hoping Trey Tucker turns into a reliable guy that can flash every now and again. But those two guys are not coming to coach the Raiders, knowing what you just did to the last two coaches, and you don't have a quarterback in place. So,
Yeah.
but the question becomes, do you keep AP for year two with a rookie quarterback? Because in my opinion, if you keep AP next year and you get a rookie quarterback, you have to keep them together for 2, 3, 4 years and let them grow together. Because the worst thing you can do for a rookie quarterback is keep AP for 1 year and then move on the next year. But whoever is going to be running the offense better know how to handle quarterbacks. And God knows it's not Luke Getsy. And we missed this earlier. Davante Adams, Luke Getsy is here because of Davante Adams had a say in that.
Yep.
That name didn't just get pulled out of a hat. He was
Yep.
Davante Adams' position coach, passing game coordinator. Davante talked about him all the way through. And once it didn't work out with Kingsbury, and we know why it didn't work out, he immediately went to Luke Getsy. And we don't know this for a fact, but you can read the tea leaves. Davante Adams was involved in that. He was involved in Luke Getsy coming over. And for him to bail on the two coaches he wanted 4 weeks in because he couldn't handle some criticism, and we've heard that before about another player that used to be on the Raiders who's no longer here. We won't name him on the show. These guys are professionals.
They're friends too.
Be a professional is all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, they're close friends too. So who knows? Maybe that's the thing. As far as the quarterbacks go, I mean, Shador, Quinn Ewers, Cam Ward, Carson Beck, Jalen Minrolls, Dylan Gabriel, Grant Musmeyer, Jackson Dart, some of the names that would be bandied about as far as that goes. I did see the Coach Prime talked about when he was on Ocho Cinco's show with Shannon. He's like, when the Raiders topic of the Raiders came up, he said, "We good." And that's one of the things where we good, or we good. And he was like, "We good." So it seems like that's not a spot where he would want Shador to go. Shador, if he thinks he can he probably thinks he can just maneuver where he wants to go. So we'll see if that takes place.
Did you see the part where Ocho Cinco said he was going to lace him up and guard Travis Hunter? And then Dion made a comment about, well, what would he do if he laced him up? And he said, "You can't cover me, you have 8 toes." And then Dion just basically hung up. That was funny.
That was funny.
Ocho Cinco called him out.
Oh my God, that's so funny. But yeah, I mean, listen, that's
where I just read off 6 teams in the top 10 right now that need a quarterback.
Yeah.
I would have drawn a line at about 4 that you drew. So the Raiders, if they don't end up in the top 2 or 3, are going to have to move draft capital and get up there. I don't want any more excuses. I don't want to kick the can down in the road anymore. Go out, get your quarterback once you move on from Davante Adams. And this whole rhetoric that they may work it out and may come back,
no, stop it.
The bridge is burned. It's time to move on.
It's over.
Sooner rather than later. I hear people saying, well, every week you wait, it's $1 million less the new acquiring team has to pay. You can't have Davante Adams in this situation hang over this franchise for the next 3 or 4 weeks. The decision was made last week that they were going to move on from him with everything that happened. And then obviously yesterday with Davante. And the timing of this is interesting. The timing, Davante asked for the trade on Monday. So this happened before Antonio Pierce last night went on that Instagram post. So this can't linger. Antonio Pierce tomorrow at his press conference, I'm going to be glued into that. I want to see what he says and how he handles this. What he needs to do is get in front of the media and say the standard's a standard. There's a certain play we play as Raiders. Everyone has to buy in. If you're not bought in, then we'll find someone that is. And he just needs to lay down the leadership. And this is the way I want to run this program. There can't be any backtracking. He needs to put his foot down and be the leader of this organization and say, this is my vision for this team, and take ownership for what's happening because he's at fault for this.
Yeah, and no more apologies. What are you apologizing for? You set the standard of it. I remember when Mike Tomlin says they asked him about are you afraid of this moment coaching these players? And I think it was his rookie year. He said, no, they should be afraid of me. And and ever since then, what has he done? Ever since he's been the head coach, he's just won game after game after game. I know it has been a long time since he won a Super Bowl, but hey, I'll take Mike Tomlin twice on Sunday if I can get him as my head coach
Whoever
of the
AP's agent
Raiders.
is needs to deactivate all of its social media like yesterday.
Yeah, dude. I'm not. Yeah, he and like he put. And I would say this as somebody like in my Instagram feed, like he posts pretty consistently for a head coach of football. I think I don't. Besides Lincoln Riley, I don't follow any other coaches. But he put some stuff out there. So I'm not anything crazy, but I'm just saying just in general, as far as that goes. So
If he
uh,
says I accidentally liked it or some crap
don't.
like
Yeah,
that
I'm
tomorrow,
out.
I'm
I'm out.
turning I'm
I'm
turning the
out.
feed
I'm
off
out.
and I'm
I'm
out.
out. I'm out. I'm
Take
out. I'm out
ownership
on
of
that.
it.
I'm out on that. I'm out on that. So we got a little time left. We all know about the Browns game. Let's just preview the Broncos and talk actual football here. The Broncos lost. I think they lost the first two games. They beat two really good defensive teams on the road. They were impressive in the Bucks game. They weren't as impressive in the offensively, at least against the Jets. But the Jets are a pretty good defensive team. They have a rookie quarterback, so I kind of understand how they would struggle in that game. Um, they did a good job defensively. They are a pretty good defensive team. They are. I was impressed with that part of it. If they stick to the run, I think they can give the Raiders some issues. Don't think they have a lot of great weapons as far as like getting separation from the Raiders. Cornerbacks, and they have a rookie quarterback. If Max plays, that should make a big difference if he's able to play on that ankle. What are your thoughts about the Raiders playing Sean Payton and the Broncos here?
Yeah, I'll start prefacing this. I texted you today. I just watched the all 22 of the Raiders defense against the Browns this past week, and the first half was boring. Those are my exact words. This is boring. In the second half, Patrick Graham brought pressure,
Yep.
played a ton of man to man, a lot of 5, 6 man pressures, and really got after Deshaun Watson. And the Raiders were able to hold up on the back end. That's how they need to play this game. Be aggressive. Go after Bo Nix. He's a rookie quarterback. He loves to check the ball down. At halftime last week, he was 7 of 15 for -7 yards. Every pass he completed in the first half last week was behind the line of scrimmage. So the Raiders can't be off, play soft coverage, and let him throw the ball underneath because that's exactly what he wants to do. Get in there, get in their face. If he hits him over the top for long balls, great. But you have to make him do that. And Bo Nix is not very good at that. He's mobile, so you have to keep him in the
Yes,
pocket. When you
yes.
do rush, you have to do your rush integrity. I thought the defensive line played with great effort last week. Now, they didn't always win. Hopefully, Max Crosby is 80, 90%, and then he can go in this game. I want the Raiders to be aggressive on defense. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, I think they're going to have some problems this week. Like you said, the Denver defense basically
This is
shut
playing
down the
good.
Jets. They shut down the Bucks. They have some cover guys. They stop the run. The Raiders are going to have to get creative in their run game this week, and you saw that in the first half a little bit. Once the Raiders fell down by 10 to the Browns, you saw them with some jet sweeps. You saw them do some reverses. You saw them get outside with Tyreek McAllister. You saw some duo with Zamir White. You saw some different run concepts that we haven't seen this year. And the minute they got a 10-point lead, they abandoned all that. And they went back to being conservative as hell and basically getting shut out in the fourth quarter. So they need to be aggressive on both sides of the ball, but Gardner Minshew has to protect the ball. In this game, they really need to get Brock Bowers involved. The last 2 weeks, he's basically been chip blocking and then running into the flat. They targeted him 3 times last week, and 2 of them were on the first drive of the game. So you need to get him fed a lot. And I think I text this to you as well. Like if you're going to use him as that extra lineman chip guy and then just have him run in the slot, you're wasting your time.
Yep.
You have 3 tight ends on this roster, maybe 4 if Michael Mayer's back this week. Use one of those other guys, and then you just basically use Brock Bowers as a wide receiver at this point because teams are playing nickel against you when you go to 12 personnel, so they're putting corners on the field anyways. And get him outside and get him involved in the passing game. Let him run actual routes because he's leading the NFL in average separation right now for anybody in the NFL. He's averaging 5 yards of separation per route run or per target. Get him involved because you don't really have a guy other than Trey Tucker that can really stretch the field. Jacoby Myers can work underneath. He's got great hands. He's a good route runner. You can run the intermediate stuff with him. But if you want dynamic, explosive plays, it's Tucker and Bowers. And if you're using if you're using Bowers to chip guys and just run in the flat, again, you have other tight ends on your roster that can do that.
Yeah, I mean, and I still want to see at least I mean, I'm not sure it's going to work or not, but let me just see one under round with Bowers. Like, you know, I mean, that he was, it's worth a try.
You
And
saw
you get,
one last week. You saw jet sweep.
yeah, it's a sweep, but I want to say, I mean, like, so like that's something I want to see. You know,
Madison needs to start as well.
though, yes, the one, yes, I never, things I thought I never would say. Alexander Madison needs to start at running back for the Raiders. But you know, they have to keep the one thing about not having a number one target. They can go different places, and it's you know it's when Turner and Tucker on the field, it's like okay, they could be going to those, they could be going to either one of those two. They might get singled up, all those things like that. They got to win, but like it's not like that overwhelming pressure to get one person the football. But Bowers is the guy who should be getting the football, and they got to find a way to get him the football. I think for the Raiders defense, it's about the seams and the screens. Like you're gonna see a lot of screens from this team. They should not. You should be able to recognize those screens. I think they do have. So I think they between Williams and McCollin, they do have they have two really shifty backs who can get things going. But for them, the Raiders should be able to slow this offense down. It's going to be a rock fight. It's going to be uglier than the game they just played. This game could be very similar to the Jets Broncos game where it's like 12. It was 10-9. That
10
could
and 9.
10-9. This game could be all field goal kickers for all we know.
Yeah, I think this comes down to turnovers. Like whichever team turns the ball over is going to lose the game. I think AP is going to play this close to the vest. They're going to run the ball. Um, they're not going to ask Minshew to do much. I know a lot of fans gave Minshew a lot of heat again because the offense scored 20 points, but you know, watch the all 22. Like they didn't ask him to do anything. It was run the ball, run the ball. You know, 3rd and 3, throw a 5-yard pass, run the ball, throw a 4-yard pass. Like there was not a lot of verticality to the passing game last week. I think that was by design without Davante Adams and knowing that Brock Bowers wasn't running a lot of those vertical routes. I think you just see a lot of that. And I know fans just want to crap all over Minshew. And like, he hasn't played great, but he hasn't played horribly. And at the end of the day, like, he's a journeyman quarterback for a reason. And expecting him to play like John Elway when he's clearly not that, he's a backup quarterback,
Yep.
is tough. Like I said, I see what you're saying, but when Davante Adams is on the field, the other team has to give him
They
attention,
have
rotate
to. They have
safeties.
to.
That's not going to happen anymore.
Nope.
So now it's a little bit different. They should be able to move guys around and create matchups, but then Gardner Minshew is going to have to trust what he sees and get rid of the ball quickly. He's not going to have to, focus in on Davante and wait and throw it to Davante. I get that, but at the same time, it's going to make it harder for everyone else. Everyone thinks, oh, it's easier when you don't have the star. You can just throw it to him. But there's not a guy where it's 3rd and 4 and you know that's the guy or he's going to get double teamed and free everything else up for someone else. So now what happens if that double team on 1 3rd down goes to Myers? One time it goes to Bowers. One time it goes to Tucker. You don't know what the defense is going to do. It's going to make it harder for the quarterback. The spacing is going to be different. Luckily, they have already played a game without Davante, so they're used to that. And I know Davante said, I don't know if I'm playing. Davante is not playing on Sunday, no matter what. Like, they're not going to run him out there if they're trying to trade him and he might get hurt if it really is a hamstring. Like, you're not risking any sort of injury at this point. He's a tradable commodity that you want an asset for. I do think the Raiders are going to really struggle to move the ball in this game. So now it comes down to how good is the defense going to play, and then is AJ Cole going to be able to be the difference maker and give you those 60-yard punts and coffin corners and really flip the field. Daniel Carlson's going to have to be reliable. He can't miss, a field goal here or there as he's already done this season. So I'm with you. I think it's a nail biter. It's a tight game. If they fall down early in this game, kind of like they did last week, they're going to be on the road. I think it's going to snowball a little bit. They need a fast start. This is the week they need a fast start. After all the distractions of last week are nothing compared to about what they're going to face Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, leading into Sunday this week.
And then the Steelers are waiting for them right after this game. So you want to make sure you win this one. I'm going to pick the Raiders because I think the Raiders are going to win. They just keep winning games despite what they need to do as a franchise. And I'm just gonna keep picking them. I think it's a close game. I think Carlson can Carlson, like you said, man. You mentioned Carlson, you mentioned Cole can make a difference. The Raiders, I think they band together this week. And then they win this game, and especially if Crosby plays, I think I could see him making one strip sack and then the Raiders come away with a victory. 12 to 15 to 12, something ugly like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure if I'll check the weather while you do yours. See if you got any weather issues going on in Denver.
Yeah, I just got done saying I think this team's going to come together. I think this game is a real breaking point for the season because if they can come together, get past all the Davante Adams distractions, if this team can go play hard for Antonio Pierce this week and find a way to win, I think it galvanizes this team moving forward. It's still going to be tough for them to win enough games to get to the playoffs because I don't think the offense is good enough. But if it doesn't, if this team goes in there and, some of the offensive guys are upset with how AP handled, Davante Adams or some of the defenders, and this thing starts, they lose this game, they get blown out in this game, you're going to see a fracture in the locker room. So this is a vital game for the rest of this season.
Yeah.
I'm going back and forth. I'm with you. I was going to say 15-12. You took my score. I'll say 15-13. We'll put it that way. A little close.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick the Broncos to win this game. I think it comes down to it's just going to be a field goal fest. I think the Broncos, get 5 field goals here, or maybe they miss a 2-point conversion at some point. But 15 or 16-13, something like that. I think the Raiders keep it close. I just don't think offensively they have enough playmakers against this Broncos defense. And I know they've won 8 in a row against the Broncos, and we can say, oh, this is a different Raiders team.
Yep.
I think they keep it close, but I think in the fourth quarter, I think with how conservative Getsy's been way too often this year, I just don't see them opening it up and taking enough shots. So it pains me to say this, but I think the Broncos win this game. Close game, 16-13.
And last week, one guy who was just in the backfield on every single play and giving Aaron Rodgers hell was Zach Allen. Like I watched that. I was on a plane, so the only game available to me was the Jets and Broncos, and so it was an ugly game. But like he was on every single play. Every single play he was in there. So they're playing as a unit, just like the Raiders play as a unit. So these are 2 really, really good defensive teams. They're really disciplined in what they do, and I do think that it's going to be a really tough game to get points.
Who does Surtain guard now? That's my question, because whoever he guards, he's going to take him out of this game. I can see times where when they do split Bowers out, if he's the number one guy,
why not? Yeah, why not put him on Bowers?
I would put him personally. I would probably put him on Tucker. Just because of the speed. He's bigger. He can jam him.
Yeah.
I think he's going to split his reps between Tucker and Bowers. Now, I think the Broncos are going to play zone here. I don't think they're going to man this up a ton, just because of the speed that Tucker and the elusiveness of Bowers creates. I do question essentially how the Raiders are going to handle pressure in this game if the Broncos come after them at times.
Right.
There's still some miscommunication on the offensive line. When Cody Whitehair had to go in the fourth quarter, there was a ton of blown assignments. Again, they played much better when they were healthy with Dylan Parham in there with Jackson Powers-Johnson. I thought the offensive line had their best game last week, but the Raiders are going to have to run the ball in this game, and I'm not convinced that they're going to put up another 150, 160 yards on the ground this week. So it's going to come down to Minshew. He's going to have to make some plays. I don't know if there's going to be enough open guys down the field. I don't know if they're going to have enough time. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Raiders win this game. I'll be rooting for them. I think this one's going to be tough for the Raider fans. They're just penciling in a W because it's the Broncos.
Yeah. I don't think the Raiders should be penciling or using a pen with any team in football. We will try to Ryan and I will try to connect for an emergency podcast if Davante is traded. Which we'll do our best. We got some conflicting schedules, so we'll try to do that if they're able to if they make that deal. So but right now it's Davante, and I picked the Raiders to win. Ryan picks the Raiders to lose in Denver. So we're very close games either way. We'll see what happens. All right, Raider Nation. I know it was an eventful day. Take a deep breath. If you drink, have one. And if you don't, have a soda. It's all good. Take care.
Take care.
Go Raiders.